Why this season? You're watching last night. You've been on before analyzing the season. So what do you think's going wrong with the Jets?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different kind of little things that have been contributing to where the Winnipeg Jets are kind of at right now. But good basis, I think I like to kind of start with a lot of folks is that I think a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans and people in the community have really recalibrated their expectation for this team because of how much went so well for the Winnipeg Jets last year. Not just a little bit of luck here and there, but individual and team performances, whether it's special teams being the power play and the penalty kill, team structure, individuals that contributed at such a high level above their existing baseline that folks kind of developed that into their baseline expectation. That became the norm. And now that a lot of players are kind of underperforming what their actual baseline is, it's significantly underperforming in the eyes of kind of where folks are at with their expectation for the team. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. But there are a lot of little things right now that are definitely not going the way for the Winnipeg Jets that currently find them in the basement of the National Hockey League, tied for last place.
So the last couple of games, some people have been saying, Saturday was a pretty good game. They couldn't get it done against the Wild. Last night, I mean, there were moments. But what are you seeing on the ice then when you're talking about those little things that are also adding up now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do fall into the camp of the folks that completely agree with the notion that the team has played better down the stretch here, though there are 6 games that they've dropped consecutively now. The last 2 in particular have been better. But where I kind of fall in the camp of moral victories is that I think it's important to establish what those moral victories would be before a game. Should we lose this hockey game tonight? If XYZ goes according to plan, if XYZ goes well, we can hang our hats on that and be pleased with the outcome. Now, like Scott Arniel said, he kind of was struggling almost to put it into words because that's exactly the case right now. The moral victories for the team is, to come out with points in those tight games, to actually be able to come back from a lead that you dig in early. And so the fact that, there are all these things that went really well yesterday, there were so many chances that were generated on the power play. They put up over 40 shots. They held Edmonton to less than 10 grade A scoring chances all game. There are so many things that, were okay in that game for sure. And that, the team has, in my opinion, gotten progressively better over the last 60 minutes of game that we watched last night. It's very difficult when the points are as desperate as they are right now to really call it as strong of a moral victory as you could if maybe it didn't exist in such a long slide that they're in right now.
So at the end of the day, they need to win, though, right? These are professional hockey players paid to win. We've seen them score before. So, I mean, obviously getting back to that for any athlete is just like a huge challenge, especially if the whole team is no one's kind of leading, saying, look at my play. I want to talk about Jonathan Toews here, and I don't mean to be too hard on him, but I mean, he's a second line center, and a lot of people are saying that they've seen him have success off the faceoffs, and he's been consistent with that, which is important, but maybe not seeing much else. I'm wondering what your take is on him this year.
That one's definitely been a challenge, I think, for a lot of people. Lots of folks just really wanted that to go well and perhaps better than it's going right now, from organizational management and the player himself down to, Winnipeg Jets fans who bought jerseys the day the signing was announced. And look, I think that, the team has certainly over these 37 games here kind of reassessed game over game what the contribution of this player is to the lineup. And we've seen his ice time take a significant hit. You're absolutely right in talking about how his work in the draws has been just as consistent as it has been through most of his career, especially of late. But at the end of the day, a face-off is the first half second of every shift that you take that starts with a whistle. And there's a lot of hockey that happens in between those. And, Jonathan Toews has kind of struggled to generate a lot of that offense, but then also execute at the full level that has made him such a storied player for his full career and, a future first ballot Hall of Famer. And that one's, I think, been really difficult for a lot of people, who are involved in this at a fan level or an organizational level, because this wasn't what they anticipated. Like you said, they wanted him as a second line center, and he's currently playing a little bit more like a fourth line center in terms of his usage and his deployment. So it's definitely been challenging, and I completely agree with you that a lot of people, myself included, are not overly enthralled with the play that we've seen over all games that he's played so far.
Hellebuck obviously wasn't between the pipes for the beginning of the season here, and a lot of people thought, okay, well, maybe that's impacting the Jets. Not sure, though, because we still weren't scoring, right? So obviously everyone knew there was more going on. But even with Hellebuck back now, we're not getting the wins. What do you think the second half of this season is going to hold? Because there's a lot of games left. Let's just try to be positive for a second.
Yeah, I definitely think that the caveat that I always kind of bring up to start is that I think that if you're a Jets fan, if you're a hockey fan, and you want to go in the full camp of this team can do it, they have the horses, and you just have to believe, you're allowed to do that. And if you fall into the camp of I hope they lose every game for the rest of the season so that they get the best draft pick available, I think you're valid for that as well. But look, at the end of the day, I do take a little bit more of a pessimistic stance in this regard, simply because of not just kind of the trends that we've seen in terms of big picture and smaller picture moments and samples that we've seen over the course of these games, but also looking at what the playoff picture would look like and what success could look like for this team, should they sneak into the playoffs, which is still within the realm of possibility. The best teams in the National Hockey League would be the first round matchups for the Winnipeg Jets, right? The Central Division in which the Winnipeg Jets play has the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, who are two of the best teams in hockey right now and two of the best hockey teams of the 2020s that we've seen. They're playing phenomenal regular season hockey right now. So the hill is very steep for the Winnipeg Jets, not just to get into the playoffs, but also to see success as well, just because there's a lot going on there for sure.
So 2 more quick questions before you go, Alyssa. So one of them is about coaching. I mean, we still have lots of hockey left. Obviously, there's the level of fans being disappointed, but they're still going to the games. We have a lot of games left. But are we at the stage yet with the Jets and losing 6 in a row and this terrible record so far, where coaching staff is going to start being looked at?
Yeah, I definitely think it is, and it will be, just because this is professional hockey. And, a lot of folks right now are giving Scott Arniel kind of the benefit of the doubt and using the analogies of, shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, right? Where, there's only so much that he can do with the horses that he's been given. And I do completely agree with that. But at the same time, I understand that, if things are needed to shake up, you can't fire a full team of 18 skaters, but you can fire one individual person that can have almost as significant of an impact. So if that's the route the team wants to go because they believe that they need to compete in this window, it's fully within the realm of possibility, but I don't believe it's necessarily the route that the organization will go.
A last quick question, because I'm just seeing now that the Chief Monius from Chickamau's joining us and just joining us. But I do want to ask you, because Team Canada is going to announce their roster, right? We're waiting for that for the Olympics. Are we going to see a Jet there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're looking for Team Canada, Josh Morrissey on the left side of the decor is an absolute lock. Lots of conversations around whether or not Mark Scheifele will be there with the forward group. But I think if you're a Team Canada fan, as most of us will be, Josh Morrissey is going to be a really important part of that group.
All right. Glad to have you on the morning show. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
That's Alyssa Houde, who's a content creator for Winnipeg Sports Talk. So the Jets, another chance to break this losing streak. They play the Red Wings tomorrow night on the road at 6:30.